Hello, lovelies. I'm Terry True Crime, and if you've been watching Couch Court with Llama, you've probably seen my face a little more than you're used to. But don't hold that against me. So, we are excited to be jumping on tonight for a quick update from Scott Huver, who's going to be here and talk with us about what is going on with the Menendez brothers. Hi,
Hey,
Scott.
Terry.
How are you?
I'm good to see you again.
Yes, I was gonna I just echoed my ear. I was gonna ask you, is it warm there today?
It was very sunny today, but we had a nice cool wind.
Oh, did you? Okay, because we hit 105 here today.
Yeah, we were just in the 70s and it was a beautiful day, but just a little bit of a chill with the wind.
Okay, I just wanted to, tell myself that not everywhere is boiling like Texas was today, and just remind myself that I wished I lived in California still.
You're due for a visit.
I am. I might be there in July, so we will see. Well,
Nice.
thank you for coming on today. There is so much going on in the world between Karen Reed, P. Diddy, like Kim Kardashian. It's like it's all court. Then you've got the Menendez brothers.
The Menendez brothers kind of finished up this big legal day with a major kind of accomplishment after years of trying. They have been officially kind of had a path cleared to be released. Their sentence has been formally reduced. Now it is now 50 years to life, which makes them eligible for parole. So that will be the next step in this long journey that they've been on. But this is definitely, today was a victory for the brothers for sure.
Now, what will they cover tomorrow if that decision was made today?
I'm not sure that anything is going to happen tomorrow other than maybe some formalities about next steps. I think the judge's decision, it could have, today's proceedings could have continued on tomorrow, but I think the judge decided he had enough information from the testimony from the family members and some of the formerly incarcerated people that the Menendez brothers had helped while they were in jail. I think that he found that made the case for him. And so he made that decision. So if there's any action tomorrow, I doubt that the brothers will even need to be on virtually as they have been. It'll probably be more the lawyers kind of fine-tuning these details for what the next steps are going to be.
Now, I will say I didn't expect it to go as fast as it did today.
I was surprised. I really thought it would be, it would go into tomorrow, if not longer. That said, Judge Jessic has had plenty of time to kind of ruminate on this. And, the big factor, I think, today was that all living members of the Menendez family and Kitty's family have signed off on this. They're all in support of the brothers, getting a lighter sentence, getting released, and they made very emotional appeals. And I think that's what put the thumb on the scale for them. I think the judge sees that. I think he's weighed a lot of it over the last several months. The DA made kind of a Hail Mary this morning.
He did.
Right before the court started, in reiterating his opposition, still very, very strongly, introducing some new reports from the state correctional board that had kind of elevated the brothers' threat upon release from low to moderate. And again, took the stance that the brothers had not completely come clean about their actions when their parents were murdered, and that he was still kind of clinging to this whole not yet mentality.
Right.
Like, he wasn't saying completely no, but he was pretty forceful, as he has been in his opposition. So that was an interesting kickoff to the day, but it didn't really go the way that the DA wanted it to go.
Now, I was reading that they took them from a low risk of violence to a moderate risk of violence. And I will say our producer kind of put me in my place because I said, why does their risk of violence have anything to do with a smuggled cell phone? And she was like, because it means they can't follow instructions.
Yeah.
And I was like, but would that be violence or they just don't follow? But then we got to talking. How many people in prison have cell phones?
Yeah.
Probably a lot.
It's, you know, what's common amongst inmates might be viewed differently when you look at a high profile
That's
pair like the
true.
Menendez brothers. They are going to be held to a higher standard for sure because they are so public. Everything they do is going to be looked at with extra scrutiny. So do other inmates bend the rules? Do other inmates get certain, passes and privileges? Yes. Have the Menendez brothers gotten those from time to time? I'm sure they have over the course of 30 years. But when you get caught, that's a mark against you. It's really a point system at the end of the
Mhm.
day, and that took their grade down from A to A minus or B plus.
Right. And I'm sure their attorneys were like going, seriously, how could you do that? I mean, I would have been. Now, I also heard, but I didn't get a chance to dive into it. Didn't a retired judge also speak on their behalf or something today? I
If
saw something about that and that he works a dog program or something.
Yeah, and I did not delve into that. I saw that headline, but I did not have a chance to kind of dig into that particular story. But again, a lot of people have lined up um, to give sort of credible testimony that the brothers have more than tried to rehabilitate themselves. Even Erik spoke via Zoom and said that should he not be released, he still intends to devote his life to making the world a better place. And when the judge issued his resentencing order, he did say that he was impressed by the brothers' ability to not be completely hopeless in the face of a
Mhm.
life sentence and to try to have done something positive with their lives. So that played a factor. It's really interesting to see these two men who have been defined by this act in their youth 30 years ago, um, which is pretty heinous. It's pretty
Oh,
heinous, but they have accrued a list of good deeds that
mhm.
they hope karmically at least balances the scale, but legally now it may have done so too.
Now, can the DA appeal this
I'm
resentencing?
sure there's many different kind of ways the DA can come at it. I don't know how hard he wants to swing at this point because now it's in others' hands. It kind of moves
Mhm.
moves to the state. There's still the chance that Governor Gavin Newsom
Can
could
step
could step in and just give them clemency. He's really been a fence sitter on the whole thing. I
Mhm.
don't think we know where he sits on it.
Right.
But it's possible. It's possible. Newsom is obviously eyeing a presidential campaign, and
Mhm.
lately he has been playing sort of courting more the right side of California to show
Mhm.
that he's not a completely liberal politician, which is not making his Democratic supporters very happy. But but he is trying to kind of find a center lane, and I don't know where giving the Menendez brothers clemency would fit into a center lane.
Yeah, and I know I saw that their parole board hearing will be on June 13th, so just 30 days from now. My biggest question, I mean, I'm still in shock that both sides of the family came together and have come forward because that I don't think I've ever heard something like that before.
It's I think it was a long road that we weren't part of. We know it's something that's happened over time. There was one holdout, I believe it was Kitty's brother, but he passed away
Mhm.
recently. But the brothers are said to have, you know, made apologies to each of the family members that were involved, and there was a lot of emotional testimony. One of their cousins, who was she's the daughter of Jose's sister, who married Jose's best friend. So very close to the family. Yeah,
Like,
Jose's best friend. He introduced him to her sister. They got
oh,
married,
wow.
and his best friend, it's Carlos Baralt. He was the executor of Jose's estate. So
Very
she,
cool.
took the stand and was very tearful. I believe it was Kitty's sister took the stand, and they've all come to this point of forgiveness of the brothers and stand united. I'll tell you, Menendez is in the air here in Los Angeles, and I was at the premiere of Poker Face of all things, a week and a half ago. And not only did I run into or get randomly introduced to a journalist who covered the Menendez trial back in the day,
Mhm.
I then, was introduced to a friend's plus one who happened to be a cousin of the Menendez brothers,
Wow.
and has been to court and, was giving me, the sort of little bit of info on how stressful all of this has been for the family and
Yeah.
how much they want to put it behind them, how much they want to see the brothers get, a second chance, get this, hope of rehabilitation, but also to just move past all of
Move
this.
past it.
That's that's the end game.
Now, I wonder because I know in Texas, a lot of times when people come up from parole, you're pretty much not gonna get it your first time. You're gonna have to wait, 3 more years. So, if they're gonna be eligible for parole June 13th, how does California do they sometimes let people out on the first one, or do they still hold back?
Yeah, when it comes to an issue of resentencing, the judge pointed out today that California law tends to favor those who have been resentenced. So they
Oh,
have a little bit stronger chance than just your average, um, you know, applicant for parole, I think, because of the resentencing. So that said, their notoriety may not work in their favor in this case. It's going to depend, um, who's going to be judging this, what
mhm.
kind of metrics they're going to use, because it's still a hot potato. I think that the needle has moved considerably toward public sentiment being in the brothers' favor, but there's still plenty of people who
Mhm.
say they did the crime, they got to do the time. Like that's
Right.
I was like that for a long time. I still am not convinced either way at this point. I'm like
Mhm.
I but I was very much like, no, I know what they did, and that is a life sentence. But I'm hearing the other side of it, and we'll see where we end up.
I just wonder, will their life be in danger if they get out?
I think that there's always a danger for any kind of celebrity. There's a if they live a public life. Um, I don't know who has an agenda against them other than some crackpot
Right.
that wants to make noise and make a name for themselves. But because it's been so long since the murders happened, and anybody who might have an actual grudge against the brothers is probably too old to do anything about it,
That's
uh,
true.
for the most part. So, and there's the conspiracies of Hip Jose's potential criminal ties. I think
Right.
that's all, whether that was true or not, that's all ancient history. So it's really just a matter of how freely they'll be able to move, like any other famous, infamous person.
Yeah, I mean, but I also think how much the world has changed since they went in.
It's a huge adjustment, I have to imagine, for anybody getting
Mhm.
released after a lengthy period of time. 30 years is a very long time.
That's
I don't know how attuned they are. I mean, they definitely, they've got plenty of contact with the outside world. They've got plenty of people who are
mhm.
communicating with them on a regular basis, through cell phone or otherwise.
Right.
And it's It's going to be a huge adjustment, and I think that they should give themselves time to acclimate and to
I
just
hope so.
be in the world before they dive in as activists or
Mhm.
whatever they want to do, with to continue to try to help other people. If that is the plan, then I think they really do need to give themselves a little breathing room to just live in the world and figure it out a little bit more, before they get too caught up in any kind of crusades.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping they don't get out and then start appearing on TV everywhere, doing a lot of things like that. I mean, I'm hoping that they will sit in the moment, relish that moment before they start doing that because everybody's gonna be knocking on their door.
Yeah, it's I don't think they would be doing themselves any favors if they were on a zillion talk shows.
Right.
Um, I think they would probably be better served once they do kind of if they do choose to re-engage with the public, which I think they probably will. Um, if it's in service of another case, if it's somebody if they're speaking up for somebody else's situation, I think talking about their own situation, I think is going to appear once they're out, it's going to appear sort of unnecessarily self-serving. Should there be a book, or something like that's it's almost inevitable. I'm
Yeah.
really curious. I'll have to figure out how the law applies in terms of like, you know, legally you can't profit
Right.
from
That's
crimes that you committed. And they did whatever happens with the sentence, they were convicted of committing these crimes.
right.
So if they do a book, the matter of what, where those profits would go is
Nonprofit. I mean, they would have to do
confusing.
something.
Yep. So yeah, there's a story. There's a story in my book about a cat burglar from the 1940s who was caught, and he was quite a sensational character. And this was before they had all those laws that said you couldn't profit, and he actually sold his story to Warner Brothers to be
He
made
did.
into a movie, and used that money to pay for his defense. But you can't
Now
do stuff like that
you
anymore.
can't do that anymore, right? I did see on, I think it was X, which I try to stay away from, but I still go there sometimes. I saw that people were questioning how much of the family money potentially is still there that they will have access to rebuild their life.
Yeah, I wonder about that as well. Because the executor of the estate is dead, I'm not sure who's in charge of it at this point. I think it might have to be a matter of the family's largesse. If the Menendez family has access to that money, if that money still exists somewhere, if they decide like this is, we're going to give this to them,
Right.
to reestablish their lives, then that's that's what I would predict. But I don't know specifically how that money has been distributed
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. I
It,
mean,
and
but I just thought,
it was millions then, and if the money was sort of like properly taken care of, it could be quite a huge sum at this point.
right, it could be, I mean, and I can see family members wanting to help them if they get out to get reestablished. I personally don't think it would be in their best interest just to hand them a lot of money. Maybe purchase a house for them to live in, somebody still control it, somebody show them how the world really works now, and kinda have a conservatorship for a bit, because I don't think you should hand them a lot of money.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see where they land geographically too. Like I expect that they will probably stay in California, but would it be wise for them to try to move back to Beverly Hills? I don't think.
Mm.
Um, so I'm curious if they'll go. If they'll go to a completely different region of California, or if they'll kind of be based in LA ish area. I don't know,
Right.
but that'll be something that'll be interesting to see too.
So, because if they're released on parole, don't they have to stay in California for a certain amount of time?
They
Because
would
I know,
they
like,
would have to do that for sure.
in Texas. So maybe they should go to San Francisco area, maybe to a little small farming community somewhere out there.
I'm not sure. They're both, if I remember right, they're both married.
One of them, Lyle, is married but separated
Yeah.
because
So
she runs his Facebook page still.
I don't know where the wives are located because that might play a factor too.
Might play a factor. Were there any surprises to you today that you saw come out in court or that the media is talking about from
I think
today?
it, I think it really, I think we knew the family was behind them. I don't think we knew until they voiced it today. I don't think we knew how emphatically and how emotional they were about it. They seemed to. I obviously wasn't in the courtroom, but from the reports that I read, they seemed to put forth a very passionate, um, display as far as their support and belief in and forgiveness of the brothers. And I think that was pretty major. And then otherwise, to me, the big surprise was the speed
Yeah.
that it happened. While the judge, as I said, had plenty of time to be thinking about this, I was expecting it to go at least another day.
I was too. That's why I was like, "Yeah, nothing's gonna happen today." But it did. And it was kinda interesting because I found out because Lyle on his Facebook, whoever's running it, put 50 to life, and that was the only comment. And I was like, "Really? Could you give me more? Make me have to go track it down myself." How do you think most of the people in Southern California, how many are on the Menendez side? How many are on the state? Do you think it's 50-50, or is there a bigger push for them?
I feel it's really somewhat generational, the divide. Um,
Mm,
and so I think that the younger generation is very much more leaning towards like, yes, they deserve a second chance, they deserve forgiveness. We totally embrace the abuse excuse. Like, I think that's where the millennial, Gen Z, and down go. And then I think the Gen Xers are a little bit more like me, like still trying to sort it all out.
mhm.
um California's also got a very red demographic in many counties, so I'm sure there's plenty of folks that are in a sort of hardline law and order view. um and I really, I keep promising you I'll do this. I need to connect with some of the cops who worked on the case and see what the cops think about it, because they were rolled up their sleeves and dug into the actual case and were in the room where the corpses were,
Right.
and were lied to by the brothers. And I'd really like to see where they come off at this point. Like,
Yeah, I also, and I think I said this last time we talked, I also think people's opinions have changed about the abuse charges and things that weren't talked about before. I think that would have been handled a little bit differently. I still don't know if that would have given them a pass, so to speak.
yeah, I think it would have, it just would have depended on the jury. That first jury still says, they say that they know things that the second jury didn't. Things were brought up that were kept from the second jury, and that the outcome might have been different if those things had been brought forth even back then.
Back
And that's
then.
been something that's been discussed for all these years. But the abuse excuse is something, and I use that term because that's how it was bandied about, and
That's how it's right.
it sounds flippant, and I don't mean it to be flippant, because I think we all have people that we know or in our families that are
Mhm.
survivors of sexual abuse. I certainly have that in my family. And so I don't mean to dismiss it when I say that. That's just the term that
Oh, no, that's what's all
comes
over
to mind. Um, but
online too.
but it is something that is taken more seriously, given far more credence and acceptance and understanding than it was back then, without question. So that's changed. I think I've told you before, like I did a live remote outside the house, the Menendez
Mhm.
house, a few months ago, and it was a nonstop stream of people on 30 and under coming to take take pictures and make TikToks, and unanimously seemed to be very supportive of the brothers.
Well, I can say now to everybody, if I am there in July, I will not be going by the house. I will not live stream from in front of the house. Just I'm gonna just say that. I'm not gonna do that because I feel sorry for the people who live there now.
Right now, it's under construction, so nobody's.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah,
well, then
they're.
that might change the story for me because I didn't wanna do it because I didn't wanna I'm very still Southern. You don't just go show up on people's doorsteps.
Yeah,
If it's under construction, that
yeah.
might be a
There's
different
there's
story.
there's there's some you can't quite see in because there's like the green construction gates and stuff. Here's a fun fact, I guess, about the Menendez house.
Yeah.
After the murders, the owner for several years was a man named William Link, and William Link was the co-creator of Columbo, the TV series
Mm.
Columbo, and the TV series Murder She Wrote. So he didn't mind that there
So we
were
didn't get
murders in that home.
wow. Okay, that's probably why he didn't mind buying the property.
No,
Probably didn't bother
I
him as much.
I had like friends of friends of his, and he thought it was kind of morbidly amusing.
I mean, I probably shouldn't say, but I would probably too. I mean, I'm the person who is so excited because I have felony jury duty on Monday, and I'm trying to figure out how I make sure I get picked when everybody else is wanting to figure out how to get out of it. So I'm morbidly curious on that.
My last time I got called to jury duty, the case was juicy. It was a murder case, and it was juicy. And I actually knew about it before I got called to got summoned for jury duty. I was aware of the case, so I don't know if that was going to color anything. But the guy, I mean, I sat there and I'm like, there's no way, because they never put me on juries because of my past experience being a police reporter covering,
Right.
court cases and stuff. But I'm like, this guy was a would-be movie producer, and I cover the entertainment industry. He's he was a graphic novelist, which I was covering a lot of like comic book graphic novel related stuff at the same time. And then my history, and I'm like, there's no way. But I'm like, and I couldn't really afford to do a
Right.
long trial, which it sounded like it was going to be. But then I was like, but if I could do this, I could write a good book after.
I know.
And I ultimately didn't even, they filled the jury box before I even got called. So I got just dismissed and after 2 days. And I was kind of bummed and kind of relieved at the same time.
Well, I will tell you, it has been so hard for me not to go and find out what case they're covering and look into it because I'm like, I need to not know. I need to be ethical and not say anything. Well, I do appreciate you coming on. Oh, it looks like we have Tatiana's here. I met you. JT and I just did a live show here in Austin at Hamilton Pool Vineyards. We covered the yogurt shop murders here in Austin. Darkest case to have to cover in front of a live audience.
Uh,
It was awful. Are you working on anything fun that you can tell us about?
I mean, crime wise, let's see. I think,
Because
well,
you've been very busy according to your Instagram.
yeah.
You have
So,
been all over the place.
we'll plug the book, which is
Yes.
still
I think we
available,
put it in the link. It's a great book.
available everywhere. Beverly Hills Noir. Um, Hoping to kind of keep the future of that brand alive. I'll have, I hope, some good news. Working on some couple of different things, so that's been great. But yeah, I have been busy with the other side of my career. I have been like, we're in the thick of Emmy Award campaigning.
Mhm.
And I recently started working with a site that is focused entirely on that kind of thing. So I have been covering events like crazy. Just did something with Questlove on his documentary about 50 years of Saturday Night Live music
Oh,
performances,
yes.
which is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you should watch that documentary. It's terrific. Saw Mission Impossible, the new Mission Impossible last night.
Was it
Just
good?
it's right in the sweet spot of all the Mission Impossible movies. You're
Okay.
gonna get your money's worth for sure.
Okay.
It's long,
Oh,
but you'll get your money's
okay.
worth.
But I'll get
There's
my money's worth.
some
Okay.
stunt sequences in there that are like as good as anything that's been in the franchise.
Oh,
I
wow.
just wrote this morning. I was writing a Billy Bob Thornton.
Mhm.
I did a long interview with Billy Bob last week, so I was writing that up. Interviewing Kevin Costner tomorrow for his new series, The West docuseries, and I'm
West.
actually more excited to interview the other person, Doris Kearns Goodwin, the great American historian.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a treat for me. So it's been a busy time.
You've been I have to say, poor Billy Bob, I was never a Billy Bob fan. Now, I am a huge fan after, oh, what is it? Oil Man?
Landman,
Landman? And then Goliath.
yeah, that's what I was interviewing for was Landman, and him and Ellie Larder both, and I really enjoyed that show. I didn't. I'm lukewarm on the Taylor Sheridan TV shows. I've
Mhm.
loved his films, but that one got me, and now I'm ready for the second season. I thought that show was really fun.
Yeah, growing up, my dad I mean, I used to tell people we feast or famine it depending on how the oil business went because that's the business my dad was in.
Mm.
So, seeing Landman, I was like it just brought back so much, and I was like, "Okay, wow, it's still a crazy world."
And the character that Billy Bob plays gives voice to the realities of the oil industry and
Mhm.
just the energy crisis that we're going to be facing in general in this blunt, no nonsense, no bullshit kind of
Yeah,
way that I and it's perfectly suited for Billy Bob. Like that character, and he
did.
kind of Taylor Sheridan wrote it for him. They meet right in
Oh,
the
he did.
middle. So
Okay.
that's a that was that, and I'm a big admirer of Billy Bob Thornton. I think he's a terrific actor, and like that classic movie star where every character is a little bit him,
Mhm.
but that's a good thing, you know.
I'm just one of those weird females. I thought it was weird that he wore blood around his neck because he was married to some beautifully stunning woman. That just turned me off, and that's why I just was never a fan, but after Landman, and then we watched Goliath, I'm like, "Okay, I'm really on board with him." And so we're going back and watching some of his older stuff because I would always say, "No, I don't want to."
Well, in the dark corners of that, then I say you got to check out that first season of Fargo, um, the TV series Fargo.
Oh, yeah, he's in
Um,
that?
he's in the first season. He's terrific. That season is amazing. Check out the Coen Brothers movie, The Man Who Wasn't There, which is a neo noir. Um,
Look at me taking notes. Who was it there? Nope, now when Double H asks me what I wanna watch, I can say, "Well, we can watch Fargo and The Man Who Wasn't There."
I should tell you too, Terry. Next week, if all goes according to plan, I will be covering an event focused around the Menendez television series, the show
Oh.
Monsters. So I'll get a
Oh,
chance to with if it works out right, I'll get a chance to talk to the producers and some of the actors, and I'm very
nice.
interested to do that.
Yeah, that is very nice. Quick question, do you know anything about the Yolanda Saldivar case in Texas?
Only the broadest strokes. I remember,
Okay,
when it happened and sort of what I picked up, but I haven't ever delved into it.
okay. Just she was up for parole. They denied her parole, and they basically told her, because it's Texas, "We can't let you out. People would kill us if we let you out because you killed Selena." And I'm just floored that somebody would say that. "We can't let you out because people will come at us."
I
So,
mean, I can't believe that members of the Manson family are still being considered for parole.
I there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me, but I just tell myself that's the way the system works, right?
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing this, and I'm gonna be curious to see what the Menendez brothers do.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again.
I'm sure we will, but thank you so much, and thank you everybody for jumping on. Don't forget, Llama will be on Couch Court tomorrow to cover the Karen Reed trial. We don't know if there's gonna be court or if it's canceled again. I will not be popping on to join her because I will be in the car traveling, but thank you everybody, and take care of yourself, stay safe, and guys, enjoy your wine time. Bye, guys.